Hello and welcome to your Fantasy Premier League one-stop shop. I'm your host Stephen Gallagher, world number 3 in points totals over the past 3 seasons. Today we'll be looking at Game Week 4, all the key points, who to buy, who to sell, fixtures to target, wildcard drafts and captaincy. Let's get straight into it, starting with some key points to consider. The first key point is Liverpool. They've got great fixtures, they rank top for expected goals and expected goals conceded so far. If you're on a wildcard, then I'd definitely be tripling up. The question is whether you want to go for double defense or double attack. With Champions League coming up and only 3 weeks of info with Arne Slot in charge, how he wants to rotate his players is still up in the air. We don't know who's going to be rotated, especially in the attack. Liverpool have so many great attacking options that there will 100% be rotation. I think a more risk-averse manager would go for double defense in Trent and Robertson. But personally, I'd go for Trent, Salah and Diaz because that Liverpool attack has so much potential for massive hauls. Next key point is the most popular transfer this game week, Isak+Saka to Salah and João Pedro. Now, it's very team dependent whether this move makes sense for you, and I think another thing is that the timing of the transfers really matters here. Making these transfers this week isn't the same as making them next week, right? In terms of selling Saka, now Arsenal, they face Spurs and City in the next 2 game weeks and they're missing Rice and Odegaard. But Arsenal then have Leicester and Southampton at home. So if you're selling Saka now, just know you might want him back in 2 game weeks because those fixtures are really nice, especially from an attacking perspective. In terms of selling Isak, let's be honest, Newcastle have been underwhelming. Although he's been ticking along nicely with a goal and an assist, this clearly has not been enough for most managers it seems, and fair enough, Newcastle haven't been amazing, but their next 2 fixtures are quite good on paper and we know what Isak can do, but at the same time I understand why people want to sell him at the moment. I just think it's about finding the right time to sell. I have him in my team and I am going to be keeping him for now. But like I said, it's very team dependent. If I had 2 free transfers, maybe I wouldn't be keeping him, but I only have 1 free transfer. I'm going to let it run out and see how he does over the next 2 fixtures. Now, in terms of buying João Pedro, his next 2 fixtures are great, Ipswich and Forest at home. He's got 2 goals and looks to be great value, especially if he is on penalties. The only concern this week is that he played 45 minutes for Brazil on Wednesday. He has to get back to Brighton in time for their match against Ipswich on Saturday. Not to mind training before the match and all that comes with match preparation. So whether he plays or not, I don't know, obviously, but it is slightly up in the air, which may put more risk-averse managers off him. In terms of buying Salah, now is a better time than ever. Liverpool play Forest and Bournemouth at home in the next 2. He's Mo Salah, not much more needs to be said there. And this is why people are selling Saka now, because Saka's next 2 are poor and Salah's are great, which is hard to argue against. And if you can do that move in 1 move, I would 100% go for it. But it's more likely that it's going to take you 2 transfers to get Salah in and you have to weigh up your options there. The question does come down to, do Isak+Saka score more points than Salah and João Pedro over the next few game weeks? In my opinion, Salah and João Pedro do outscore them, but you have to consider whether using your transfers is worth it. And in my opinion, if you have 2 free transfers, I would go for it. If you have 1 free transfer, I definitely wouldn't take a hit, and personally I'd wait another game week to assess your options. The next key point is Haaland versus Salah. No doubt the 2 best assets in the game, but is it worth having both of them considering they take up nearly 30% of your budget? And for me, the answer is actually yes, and here's why. First off, they score the most points. That's obvious, you've seen so far, they score the most points. Second, you have the flexibility to change to other premiums. So if you have Haaland right now, Salah is only a 2.5 million upgrade on Saka or Palmer, and given the various cheap enablers that are in the game right now, I don't think it harms the rest of your team too much. If you're only going to go for one of these players right now, I'd go for Salah because his fixtures are far better in the short term, but I'd definitely want a plan to get Haaland back in game week 7. Next up, we're going to look at the defenses to target based off the fixture difficulty ratings from FPL Optimized. Over the next 6 game weeks, Aston Villa have the best fixtures from a defensive perspective. I think Konsa is the obvious pick here. He's the most nailed on of all the Villa defenders. Digne is the other option, but there is some uncertainty around his playing time with Maatsen in the mix. I would just go for Konsa if you were considering a Villa defender right now. Next up is Everton. I think they're a wait and see defensively. They have been very poor, conceding 3 goals in 10 minutes against Bournemouth. With Branthwaite injured, I think he's so key to their defence that right now Everton is just a bit of a wait and see for me. Ipswich next up. As a newly promoted team, I don't expect many clean sheets from Ipswich. If you're going to go for anyone, then Leif Davis is the man. He got 18 assists in the Championship last season, and if you like the look of the fixtures and want to get someone in, Leif Davis is the one. Next up, Man City. The fixtures are good, but who's going to play is the issue. If I was on a wild card, I'd be looking at Rico Lewis. Just be aware that no one's minutes are secure besides maybe Ruben Diaz, and he doesn't offer much goal threat. Vardy's another one. If he starts playing in the same role he did last season, attacking down the left side, he definitely becomes a great option, but I think what we've seen so far in the first few fixtures is that he's been playing much deeper than he was previously. I think if Kyle Walker comes back into the team in place of likely Rico Lewis, then I think Vardy pushes forward, but for now, it's a wait and see. If I was on wildcard, I'd go with Rico Lewis for now. Next up, Brighton. They have Ipswich and Forest in the next two, and Dunk is the one to consider for me. I think his minutes are the most secure, and if he's fit, he starts. There's obviously the odd chance that he comes off early if there's a minor issue, but that can work in your favour sometimes if he locks in a clean sheet before getting subbed. If I was to go for a Brighton defender, it would be Dunk. Next up is attacks to target. Again, Villa, top of the list. Watkins, I mean, first off, he is yellow flagged, but he has been pictured in training, so I wouldn't worry about that. I think he's being slept on massively because if he finds his form, you'd expect him to do so in these fixtures. The returns will come and you can get him for 0.1 mil cheaper now because everyone's selling him. So I think Watkins is a great shout for this week. On to Rodgers. In my opinion, he's the best budget enabler. He hasn't returned yet, but his underlying data looks good for his price point, and you can see that he's going to have a big role for Villa this season based off what we've seen in the games and also what Emery has been saying in press conferences. I want to take a quick note on Onana. I think he is a bit of a trap in FPL. I personally wouldn't go for him. I know he scored 2 goals, but based off his role in the team, he's more of a defensive-minded midfielder. I don't think the returns will continue for him. Next up, Everton and Ipswich. The attacks are an avoid for me. If you like the look of their fixtures, then McNeil from Everton and Smodics from Ipswich would be the ones to go for, but personally, I'm not considering them for my team. Next up, Man City. Haaland has 7 goals in 3 games. He's living up to the price tag so far, but will it continue? He's in my team and he's not going anywhere for now. De Bruyne has also been so good and he's playing almost 90 minutes every game. At 9.6 mil, he's not been this cheap since 2018, so 6 years ago. I think he's great value if he can keep getting the minutes he has. De Bruyne is a great pick. Man United attack is unfortunately another avoid for me. If you like the look of their fixtures, Bruno is the main man. He's been very, very unlucky not to return. I think he has the most underperformance of XG so far, meaning he should have returned based off the expected goal data. If you want to go cheaper, then Garnacho's data also looks good. But for now, I'm not considering Man United attackers in my team. Next up, Brighton. They're full of great budget options. You got João Pedro, he's the main one. He's looked great so far, especially if he's on pens. Minta, another interesting option at 5.5 mil. I think Mitoma is also interesting, but for 1 million less, I'd look at Minta. Next up, onto my wildcard draft. This is the team I'd go for if I was wildcarding. I'm not wildcarding, but I like the look of this one. We've got Haaland and Salah, which is essential for me, and also essential is triple Liverpool. I like the attack and double up with Liverpool with Salah and Diaz and then putting Trent in the defense. I have gone fairly light on the defense so we can get in 8 attackers, going heavy on the attack, which I really like to do. And overall, the draft, it has great fixtures going forward and also lots of penalty takers, which I like. This is what I'd go for if I was wildcarding this week. On to captaincy. Salah and Haaland are top of the predicted points according to Check the Chance, and I tend to agree with them there. Although I do think Haaland will outscore Salah this week. It is a bit of a 50-50, but the underlying data of Nottingham Forest and Brentford's defence leads me in Haaland's favour there. De Bruyne in the number 3 spot for me, followed by Eze against Leicester at home and Saka against Spurs, who Saka didn't show up in the predicted points there, but I expect him to do well in the North London derby this weekend. On to my Game Week 3 review. Not a bad game week. Another green arrow, which we'll take, but not a huge green arrow. My transfers last week worked out well. I got rid of Nkunku for Semenyo, who did score, and I also got rid of Mikolenko for Konsa, which looked like a terrible move at the 85th minute when Everton had a clean sheet, but Then they conceded 3 goals and I breathed a bit of a sigh of relief, I'll be honest. But no return for Konsa, but I'm happy to have him in my team going forward. And yeah, not a bad week for me at all. Not a great week, but we'll take the green arrow. On to my game week 4 plans. My plan this week is to roll. I know, very boring. I only have 1 free transfer, so I'll be going into next week with 2 free transfers, and I'm monitoring Isak and Son because I want to get Salah in, and they're the likely casualties to fund that move. But we're gonna have to we'll come back to that after the weekend games. Who knows? Maybe get an injury somewhere in the team, have some fires to put out, but for now, we're sticking with that plan. That's all for today, folks. Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more and follow me on Twitter for updates throughout the game week. Until next time, guys, have a good one.